Welcome back to the Art of Football 365. This is episode 63. We've been gone for a couple weeks. The holidays rolled around, busy time for everyone in general. So we took a couple weeks off here, got resettled, and now we got a big interview here with Chadrick Fellers, a former Freeport, Illinois guy. So we're excited for this one to kind of hear his story and hear how he took off and what he's up to nowadays in life. But before we do so, check out our two sponsors, Bacher Auto Group and Driftless Quality Wear. And also, Gronk spike that subscribe button for us. We appreciate all the feedback we get from you guys. But let's dive into this one, Gannon.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you joining. It's awesome. I'm a Freeport grad myself, as you are. It's pretty cool hearing your name, hearing the story, just all this, and then the people you work with. But we'll dive into that a little bit later. Kind of just talk about who Chadrick is as a person, kind of at work, away from work, a little bit your passions, just any of that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So I was in 815. I was born in Rockford. Grew up in Freeport. I lived in a bunch of different spots in Freeport. My family moved a lot, but mostly was on. I think it was Clark and Cherry growing up. So lived there. Basically, normal childhood. Freeport was a solid place to grow up. I still talk to a lot of the homies from there. Was on the baseball team, walked the same hallways at FHS as everybody. And I after Freeport, I went to Gyland for it's probably half of a semester. I went there and I was working at a Walmart at the time, and I realized I was just like not going to be able to balance the work school schedule. And I was learning a lot of gen eds, things that I just learned in high school. So I personally wasn't very passionate about it. Ended up moving to Chicago on a hunch and moved to the city, went to Columbia College, which was an art school. Played on the baseball team there, basically lived in the dorms, and kind of just was on a grind mentality. It was just, me and a couple buddies of mine would just made a vow that we would really just not stay in the dorms. We'd go out every single day to do anything, really, to just meet people, go to networking events, really just anything that could put us in the door with, someone who could help us out or open doors for us. And at that time we were really I was going to school for film and video. So I was shooting, music videos that definitely weren't the best quality, shooting them on really bad cameras, and, just typical grinding it out, trying to just figure out what I wanted to do. But, I didn't feel lost, but I definitely didn't really know what the future held. So yeah,
For sure. Yeah, going back to Freeport kind of a little bit, what do you think Freeport did for you as a person, kind of growing up? I know that it's definitely an area nowadays that a lot of people push towards getting out of. So what would you say, if anything, what did Freeport do for you before you got out of Freeport? What would you say the biggest thing?
Yeah. I think Freeport did most for me was just the people that I grew up with. I consider it, it was a little bit different when I was growing up there too, about 10, 15 years ago. I think the people definitely helped it a lot. I'm still close with some of them, and one of my roommates is another Freeport grad. I think growing up in Freeport, we tend to have a small town mentality, meaning that you think nothing can happen for you in certain fields, especially in the music field and entertainment where I work. Growing up, that just wasn't even a thing. Like, that's not even like I want to do that. It's just like, oh yeah, we're from Freeport. That shit it's just not going to happen. So I think, trying to reverse that mentality is something I want to strive towards, because, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I was not the best student. I wasn't in a ton of extracurriculars. I was just kind of floated by school. I wasn't even really that passionate about anything. I didn't really find my passions until you until I tried multiple things, which I feel like is very important too, just to being open to trying things. But yeah, I mean, if I would say Freeport did anything for me, is the people and the community that I grew up with. Um, and yeah,
based off what you said there, I like how you said with Freeport, like the small town mentality,
yeah,
you got to break the barrier to kind of be like, all right, well, outside
yeah,
of a small town community, like we can still be great at something we want to do and want to accomplish. And that's kind of like the same thing with Gannon and I here, still sitting in Freeport, Illinois, but pushing to do something, pushing to make a difference. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what people need to realize in a small town is push the barrier, break it, and eventually it will bust down and people will be able to understand like we can do something if we truly want to do it. I just wanted to throw that in there. I like
yeah,
that.
exactly. No, that's facts. I mean, people, and even going into this Forbes stuff, I've met people from all types of small towns. Like it's not, being from a small town after you get into an industry and you have success, unfortunately you get pulled into these bigger cities. Like I have to live in LA because of what I do. But,
Mm-hmm.
I'll still claim Freeport, and I'm happy to try and do my part in turning things around and, helping out the community, however I can in the future.
No, it's pretty cool. I mean, you did. It was a really good interview with Jamia Green over at WREX. We're really good friends with her. She's helped us with the podcast, did a lot of stuff, reporting us. But just a couple of your quotes. I walked the same hallways. I did the same stuff. Anything is possible. That's all I really want people to know from our town, our community. If you put the work in and you put yourself in the right place at the right time, anything can happen. I just thought that was pretty cool because a lot of people say that, but you did it with the full circle moment with getting on the Forbes under 30 list while also saying that with just being 15 years removed from getting out of Freeport. I just thought that was really cool, and I was passionate seeing another Freeport alum doing this and just hearing about that. I thought it was really cool, and we need that as a Freeport, as a smaller community. We need more, I think, shining spots that we don't have on a day-to-day basis, and you're one of those. I just wanted to say that and take some time and give you that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's important, it's especially for the youth, we
Yeah.
didn't, I'm trying to think back of, guys that I looked up to from Freeport area were guys like Willie Veasley back in the
Mm-hmm.
day,
Yeah.
guys that that was my first taste, I guess, of being like, damn, like we're watching this man play on Butler national championship game. Like that stuff like that is really important for the youth. So I think continuing that, and people who are having success in their fields, is important to put a light on it for sure, and show the kids that are now in school and have that same taste for them, is important.
For sure. And back to what you kind of mentioned the music industry, such and such. But talk a little bit about your passions now, and kind of how did you find your main passion and how did it get you to where you are now?
Yeah. I think my main passion, I would say, because music, I loved listening to music. But I never really went to concerts. I didn't even go to my first concert until I think I was going to Highland at the time. So I was probably 18 or 19. And I went to a Wiz Khalifa Mac Miller show at University of
That's not a
Illinois.
bad first one to
That's
go
not a
to.
bad first show
Yeah,
either.
yeah, it was great. It was great. They were both smaller artists at the time, but um, so I didn't even really understand concerts or how it worked or the logistics that went into it. But I would say my passion now is definitely um, overall just in the creative world, not even necessarily just music, but I love creating things and having people experience them, or when we make merch designs and seeing people wear the merch on their backs, or go to a show and get to experience kind of something that myself and the artists in our team helped create. I would say that, and then what I get the most fulfillment out of, I think, is hiring people, putting people in place to succeed. Being able to train people and then send them out on the road to do what they're passionate about, whether that's being a tour manager or a lighting person or visuals or selling merch or whatever. I love being able to, take someone and put them out on the road. I think that's a big passion of mine now too.
I just wanted to touch on your brand's wasted potential. I saw it was interesting. It's kind of something that's what your grandma told you. Is that correct? That it was you were wasting your potential. That's how the name got started. Just kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
just kind of
yeah,
describe that as a whole in your brand to the audience that might not know much about it.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, so wasted potential just kind of happened organically. We didn't really have a company name when we were throwing shows. It was really just throwing shows around colleges in the Midwest. So it really stemmed from I went to school for film and video, was shooting videos. We had an opportunity with this artist that I was a baseball player, and I loved this artist named Mike Stud back in the day. He was also a baseball player, and he was really small, so I was just reached out on Facebook. They said something like, anyone in the Midwest that can throw shows, let us know. So me and my buddy Jake just completely lied and was like, yeah, we know how to throw shows. We live in Chicago. Not thinking anything would happen or anyone would hit us back, but his manager hit us back and was like, oh, really? You guys throw shows in Chicago? Can you look into something for this date? So I just called all the venues in the city. We ended up landing a little baby venue called Reggie's. I put down, I think, my last $500 in my savings account to hold it. And then we basically got all the kids from our college to go, and it ended up being really successful. Mike knew, he kind of observed that we were young hustler kids. So he's like, man, you guys want to come out with us to St. Louis or whatever the next city was? And we're like, oh, hell yeah. And we were filming, so we made little recaps for him.
No way.
Long story short, that led to more opportunities of booking other artists. So we would then we developed it and turned it into like, okay, we'll take an artist like a Kid Ink or Riff Raff or whoever back in the day, like a college age artist, Sammy Adams, Asher Roth, like we did Chance the Rapper, Logic, a bunch of artists that were kind of on the come up. We'd put them in Chicago, St. Louis, Iowa City, Madison, Wisconsin, University of Illinois, and they just kind of do a little mini tour with us. And then that got pretty busy to the point of having to make a decision whether to continue with school or to drop out. And because I was missing so many classes because we'd have to leave and go and work in these markets, so I chose to drop out. My family was tripping. They didn't see the big picture. At the time, it's just us driving around in a rented SUV or something, just crappy vans, like our parents' cars, anything we could do to just kind of make it work and get by. So they didn't see the full picture, so they were like, you're wasting your potential. What's going on? And there was no company name at the time, so just decided to stamp it as that. Drew this little squiggly face that in our dorm room, and it kind of became a thing. And then now, 10 years later, you look at it, and a lot of artists relate to that. A lot of anyone in the entertainment worlds or anything in a lot of different industries can relate to someone saying they're wasting their potential by pursuing something other than the norm. So it's been nice. It's a cool brand, and it's definitely relatable to a lot of people.
For sure. And I feel like everything you just answered to with that question kind of flows right into this next question with what is your individualized definition of hard work, and kind of like how has hard work put you to be where you're at now, and see how successful you are with what you've done, and even the Mike Stud situation, and just reaching out, not understanding what you really had to do,
took the risk.
but you took that risk knowing that that's what you wanted to do. How has hard work kind of put you in that position?
Yeah, I think it's important to, the fake it till you make it thing is a component, but you really have to, if you reach out to someone, and even if you're telling them a lie or something like that, you have to be ready if that comes back at you to not make yourself look like an idiot. Because we've had people, tell us like, oh yeah, I know how to, we use a certain software to run, our lighting shows that we build for these artists. So we'll have someone say, oh yeah, they put it on their resume. They say they know how to do it. they come around, we start asking them questions, they actually don't know how to do it. So it's like, if you're going to put something out there, you got to make sure you can, walk the walk. Otherwise you're really opening yourself up to failure. And typically in this industry and a lot of other industries, first impression is so important that if that's your first impression on someone, we're going to probably, push you back and get someone else and fill those spots. So hard work though, to me, is definitely just like little wins every day. I think you got to look at it, our generations and millennials and Gen Zs, we're very, we want things fast. We're so used to being able to stream stuff stream any music, stream any show nowadays. Like the work, unfortunately, you can't just hit a button and get what you want. Like you have to commit your existence. Like I committed my entire existence to building this company over the last 10 years, and just little wins every day. And there's going to be losses too, but you can't let yourself get down. Just little stuff, making sure you just work on it a little bit every day. Like I had side hustles at certain moments as well. But you can't lose sight of the big picture for sure. And I think that is probably one of the things that people do most nowadays. They're like, man, I have a really dope idea or a dope business concept, or I want to do this. They work on it for a month or 2 months or maybe just a year, and they don't see the fruition. So they just kind of set it down and don't come back to it. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of us make because we're so used to things fast. That's one thing our parents and grandparents generations understand is hard work and putting a lot of time in, because back then things weren't as fast. So little victories every day.
For sure. I think, like you were just saying, there's a lot of people that need the instant gratification just from minute to minute, day by day, and if they don't get that, they're not successful. But I think it's also good because then it weeds out people that you kind of don't want or need around. But what are some pros and cons kind of your job that you do on a day-to-day basis? Some of the worst parts, best parts. And then does it feel like a kind of a job still, or has it a dream? Has it set in, kind of registered what all of you've done, who you've worked with, or is it still kind of a little surreal?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely surreal. I think the worst part of what I do now, looking at it, is probably the travel. It's probably a lot of flights, a lot of early wake ups, and after late nights and stuff like that. But that stuff you understand, and you sign up for that. If on a day where I got to wake up at 5 a.m. to get to the airport for a 6:30 flight all the way to New York or something, I just try to tell myself, like, if this is as bad as your day is going to get, then you're having a solid day. Like if really sitting on a plane for 6 hours is as bad as my day is going to get, I'm all right. Cause I've worked at Walmart and Jimmy John's and, other stuff. So like those jobs taught me to respect where I'm at and appreciate where I'm at, most importantly. But I would say it definitely is surreal in the sense of being able to see where I've come from and to be working in the music industry, because back when I was in Freeport, we looked up to artists like Wiz Khalifa or Lil Wayne, Drake, all three of those artists we've either worked with or I've met. So it's just crazy to be on the other side of it. But in my industry, it's a job. It's still a job. You have to look at it that way. You can't be asking for pictures and be fanboying. So you got to really, it's a job. So it's just a really blessed job that I'm very blessed to be here, and I'm very, very grateful to be where I'm at.
For sure. And I kind of got a two-part, like, hand-in-hand question here with initially when you first started, or it could be even right now, have you ever met someone, like, while you were working to be where you're at? Did you ever meet someone that you were kind of starstruck by and kind of like, wow, like, that's when it actually clicked in my head, like, I'm here now. Like, I'm meeting this person. Like, this ain't Freeport, Illinois anymore. I'm on a bigger stage now. Have you ever kind of met someone like that did that for you? And on top of that, what's kind of like a show, would you say, or biggest event that you've enjoyed being a part of so far?
Yeah. So the first part of the question, I think there's been a couple moments that I can look back at and think of like, wow, this is just insane that I'm here. I think the first one is a while back. I was tour managing this guy named Somo at the time. He was on this Jingle Ball tour, which is where like a bunch of pop artists get together and they put on a show at an arena, and the fan base is usually teenagers or 20-year-olds, and it's the pop music, the stuff that's really popular year over year. But I remember I was with him. We were getting in an elevator, and we get in an elevator, and then Ariana Grande and Selena Gomez get in the elevator with us, and us and them. I was just like, what the hell? I was 20, I think, at the time, or 21. So I was very like, I was just like, wow, this is crazy that I'm here right now. So we just take it. No one even says anything. We're just like slowly go up to some level and get out and go our ways. But I was just like, damn, that happened. Um, that was probably the one moment.
That is nuts.
That is.
And another moment I think is recently on this Jack Harlow tour. We had a show in Toronto, and Jack and Drake are fairly good friends. So we were wondering if Drake was gonna come, but last minute, of course, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come through." So Drake comes to our show. He's watching the show kind of from um, an area where you can just see the full production. So he's, I'm looking over to my left and I see him and he's watching it and talking about, the stage and shit that I've designed in my computer. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was all after the show's over. But Jack texted me and we ended up going to dinner. And Drake rented out this private restaurant and invited me, Jack, and some of our team there. So we all ate dinner, and it was super late. It was like, shows don't get over till midnight, so we were eating dinner until like 2:30. So we were all like, okay, that's the end of it. That's really dope. We just ate dinner with Drake and caught a vibe. Then the waiter's like, man, wait till you guys are going where you're going. It's going to take you an hour just to get a tour of the place. So I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. So then I come to find out we're going to Drake's house. He's throwing like some function for us. So we end up at his house, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy because I've heard things about this place being in the music industry. He has this, his place is notorious. It's just a massive mansion that just got finished, I think, a couple years ago. He's got a giant OVO basketball court in it and whatnot. So we end up being in there. We're like playing basketball at like 6 a.m, and everyone's just in a really good mood. And it was a pretty crazy night because, I mean, Drake is probably one of the most influential artists, not only of my generation, but probably Gen Z as well. So
Oh yeah.
being able to just like, kick it and spend time there is definitely a moment of like, we were all just like, wow, I'm just like, damn, where I've come from is just crazy. I would have never thought I'd be in this place. But yeah, those are two funny moments for sure.
There was another quote that I saw from one of your interviews. You said, if you told yourself this 15 years ago, the shoes that you're in, you wouldn't believe it. Kind of to build on the question I'm about to ask you, what's some advice that you would give to a younger person, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that you would say to them now having this experience under your belt and all that? What are just a few quick bullet points maybe you would give that person?
I think going back to the little victories thing, I think it's important to look at it on a day by day basis. Like, it, because it's just me looking back at it. You can't really define success looking forward, but when you look backwards, you're like, wow, yeah, it was just little things I did every day, little emails I sent, or little projects we were working on, or whatever. I think my advice for sure is just to put your head down and try stuff every day. Just commit, whether it's an hour or two of your time. A lot of us spend time watching Netflix or maybe gaming or whatever. Not to say you can't do those things, because, I think it's important to have time to do that as well. But time management, just figuring out what you're, if you're really passionate about it, committing your time to it and putting little bits of time in it every day, and then, look at it, try and look back every 3 months or 6 months or a year and see how much progress you put in. And I'm sure when you look back 6 to 12 months later, you'll see genuine progress being made.
For sure. And this is kind of a personalized question directed towards us and you at the same time, in the sense that, like, when you first started, we've kind of had this struggle, I guess, in a way. It's like, when you come up with ideas, how do you go about sharing them with the right people? I know a lot of people can have ideas and you share it with the wrong people, and they like to either steal or copycat that idea and kind of take away the hard work that you've put in. So how did you go about creating your idea and sharing it with the correct people?
Yeah, I mean, our ideas really, I think it's important to establish a team and be around people that have the same mind state as you, and are working towards, all working towards one goal. I mean, my ideas and stuff like that, typically I will just share with the artist or managers or our team. I'm not not really sharing ideas too much with people outside of our lane, but before everything started, I mean, yeah, there's been times where some people we feel like have copied things or done things that we wanted to do or whatever, but I don't really take any of that stuff into account too much, or let it affect us too much, because I just choose not to put energy into the negativity. But yeah, I think it's all you can really do there is build a team that you feel like are all helping each other and can see a common goal, because that's important.
That's pretty that's pretty good advice right there. There you go.
Not getting into the negativity. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that's something that I think for us, like us falling into at an early stage, with us just beginning this like a year in, and kind of trying to build a brand based off this podcast. I think we've realized and caught ourselves multiple times within that negativity, kind of being like, well, how do we keep pushing forward? How do we create something that other people actually want to be a part of or want to listen to?
Yeah.
So in general, I guess, what is your advice for us to kind of keep pushing with the not give up mentality, not falling into that negativity trap? How do we keep pushing, or how do people in general keep pushing with what they're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like in the podcast lane, it's like what makes people want to listen, right? It's interesting stories. It's stuff you can get from you guys that you can't get from someone else. It's exclusivity. And it takes a lot of work for sure, building a good podcast. I think branding, content, the stuff like that just has to stand out and pop. But the only way to do it really is just to put your head down and buckle down and just knock it out. And you guys seem like good guys, so I think it'd be good.
Is there kind of anything anything in light that you, not even just with this process here, but anything like with the no regrets, all that, anything you could go back and maybe change once over this, or you just kind of live it with no regrets?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's sometimes I'll run into a scenario and think of like an artist that we almost landed and then we didn't get, but a lot of the times that comes full circle. Guys like, I remember losing out on an opportunity with Logic to tour with him, and then it comes around a year later. Or guys like, Chance the Rapper, we've worked with, that I was like, wow, I was right next to him at school. I could have said something and made something happen out of this. But then, a few years later, that opportunity comes back. So I feel like regrets aren't, because, you go back in time, you do one thing, something else happens that you weren't expecting, and, something negative happens. You don't end up exactly where you're at now. So the way I look at it, I would say no regrets, but just to to build a good product and be a good person, and then it usually comes back around. So if you miss an opportunity, or you don't land something you wanted to land, or maybe for the app, a person doesn't land a job they wanted to land, so they have to get another job, and you keep your head down and you do good stuff, and that other job comes back to you. It's surprising how much the universe does that, the full circle mentality. Like things really do come around. What goes around comes around. And if you give off good energy and are a good person, I think a lot of that stuff comes back to you.
I agree with that 100%. Kind of throwing it back to the podcast mentality. Have you been on any other podcasts? And if so, like, kind of describe the atmosphere with those, or any shows that you've done with podcasting or other people with interviews. What have those other interviews been like for you?
For sure. Yeah. I've been on a handful of them, maybe like 5 or 10. I think some of them are geared towards specific things, very niche, like maybe one's about lighting, like specifically about lighting and stage design, or one's about tour management, or what have you. So there's a lot of podcasts that are kind of niche oriented. I feel like it's good to kind of have a little bit of both, because, some people are going to tune into podcasts because it's about a niche and they really want to master that one thing. But then some people are, wanting to hear about that niche, and then every now and then get a taste of some other stuff, some tasteful stuff you mix in. So overall, I think podcasts are great. They weren't around when I was young, so we didn't really have it. You can tune into a podcast and get advice about whatever you search nowadays. That didn't really exist back in the day. So people had to read books, or maybe try and catch a YouTube tutorial or something. But yeah, podcasts are doing good stuff now.
For sure. And I kind of want to, based off that answer right there, like, I guess a lot of people watching this will probably sit back and watch and realize, like, why is Chadrick Fellers on the art of football? Why is he on a football podcast? So I guess a lot of people would think that, and I wanted to throw that in there, and the fact that with our podcast, Individualized, it's more sports driven, but in a general setting, like Gannon and I, 2 college students, both working towards a future. So if we see a guy like you yourself that has done it, been successful from the area, and we see that and we want that advice, we're obviously going to take full advantage of that. So anyone that's listening to this show, understand that obviously we have an athletic direction, and we're driven towards that. That's what we want to do with the future. But learning and listening to other people's success stories matter. So whether if you're a sports guy and you want to learn about the business avenue, you could learn something from just listening to Chadrick. That's just how it is. It's simple. You can learn something based on something else, regardless of the direction you're heading in life. And I think that's quite important. And that's the basis as to why Gannon and I wanted you on the show, is art of football. It may sound weird being on that show, but that's the whole purpose behind it, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, I respect that. I think that's, like I was saying, a niche that people tune in for, but sometimes it's good to get out of that and listen to some other stuff and get a little might unlock something that you didn't know, or something that you're interested in.
Exactly.
No, I mean, that was just kind of build off before we kind of start to wrap this one up, right? Is that kind of what we're thinking here?
For sure.
It's just the biggest thing when I was listening to Bryce talk about that and your answers, there are so many specific things that you said in your answers about just the grind and the process and getting to where you ultimately want. That you can mirror that in anything with sports, real life, day-to-day, school, anything that people are doing for their careers or in their life. You need to have that foundation in order to be successful. And that's why we don't want to be too sports driven or too one theme driven on this podcast, because if we do, then it only pertains to one type of people. They can hear this from different type of avenues and just pick up one thing, and then we did our job at the end of the day because they learned something and picked something up. But that was a lot of your answers are very unique, but it was also similar, and it was really reinforcing to hear that, knowing that we're saying that about the sports world, that it also connects with the music industry. But Chadrick, thank you very much. This was awesome. Having a Freeport alum and 815 guy on here means the world to us. I mean, and you're killing it. There's really nothing else to say. Bryce and I have laughed seeing all the different shows that you have ran, artists you've worked with. I mean, it's insane. something that we love to do, and we don't have anything really to do with the media in that type of regard. But it's awesome, man. Keep up the hard work and best of luck to you. And then also, Jaden Millsat says hi. Appreciate the connection with that. Jaden really helped us out with that.
Shout out Jaden for sure.
Good. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to doing some more stuff in the 815. I really want to work with the school and just generally just people in the community to try and encourage some positivity. And I know there's kind of a lot of negative stuff coming out, so it's important to look at the other side of the spectrum and try and give some of these, especially the kids that are in FHS and the junior high school across the street, to really show them that there's stuff you can do.
For sure. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, I think continuing to do what we do at Wasted Potential is important. I think a lot of people get, they start to really be successful in an avenue, and then they either try and branch out too early, or and then they fumble doing that way. But I think it's what we do is really unique. We're one of the only companies that does tour management, design your shows, design your merchandise, help out with really whatever an artist needs. I think we'll kind of look at that, and I want to do I just want to dive in further with some of these artists and really kind of help them grow and continue to staff a lot of people. We have about 100 of us right now, so I would love to scale that 5-10 fold, and
that'd be awesome.
For sure. And I just want to say, as well as what Gannon said, I reiterate that I appreciate you coming on here. I was not a Freeport High School graduate. I went to Akron High School up the road, so I'm a little different. I did go to Highland, so we have that in common. But in general, I just want to say thank you. I greatly appreciate it. You coming on here, it's not something you have to do. Taking the time out of your day to come on here and listen to the two younger kids kind of chop it up. I greatly appreciate that, man. It means the world. We're just trying to pave a way for ourselves, and hearing success stories like yourself, it means a lot. It's motivating. It kind of keeps us wanting to push, and we hope it motivates other people out there too that decide to listen. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's the goal, man. Pay it forward, because someone walking those hallways or doing it is going to be the next one. So it's really important. Sure. Like I said, it's a cycle, and if we can continue to encourage positivity, then it won't just be one or two every 5 years. Hopefully it'll be a couple people every year, and then that's how a community grows, and you can really change the culture of a town, which would be great.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
All right, well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Tune back in next week for episode 64. Make sure to like, comment, and Gronk spike that subscribe button for us. We appreciate you guys.